Well, hello. Today is Sunday, October 20th, and you are watching the Viewscreen. I am your host. I am here, Amy Nelson.
And
And
I'm very glad she's here, but I'm also Kelvin Wood. And the Viewscreen is your weekly Star Trek magazine show, streaming live on YouTube and hopefully Instagram and Facebook this week, experimentally. We're here to bring you the news, features, and lots of love from our chosen Star Trek family all across the globe.
now, don't worry. If you're not able to watch us live, go ahead, find us. We are also as a podcast. So search the Viewscreen, BQN. It'll pop right up on all platforms.
And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. We really appreciate all of your support. If you're brand new here, a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us. And please make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and alert buttons on YouTube to make sure you never miss an episode of the Viewscreen. Currently, we are looking out for some more subscribers. We have 109 subscribers at the moment, but we do have over 200 videos on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and check those out.
Yes, we've got lots of content coming out from BQN, so hope you enjoy that. And if you want to continue the discussion, please find us our Facebook group, BQN Collective, and we also have our Discord server. And the links are there in our show notes. So go ahead and drop us a comment here. We'll love reading them. And we love participating with our live audience. And in fact, we have JJ joining us. Thank you. So
Good
glad
morning,
that you are
JJ.
here. Yes.
Well, welcome back, Amy. How are you?
Oh my gosh. Thank you. When you get that sick where you don't care what's happening in life, that's where I was. It was so bad. I'm like,
Oh,
life is passing me by and I can't do anything about it. So that's where I was. So thank you, Kelvin. Oh my gosh, the show must go on.
I literally remember typing that to you. I was like such a Broadway lovey. Oh, the show must go on. But thank you to producer David, who really, really supported last week as I was flying solo.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because this little update here has very rapidly just become me and you talking about health-related issues. If it's not me a couple of weeks ago with my Bell's palsy, it's you with your food poisoning.
Of a certain age.
Yeah. We have a couple of birthdays this weekend, Amy. I wouldn't mind just giving a couple of people some shout outs. So we have from our lovely cruise, Star Trek The Cruise family, we have Ica and Thaddeus Munro, whose birthday was yesterday. And Ben's birthday is tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. Well, happy birthday to the boys out there.
Happy birthday, guys. And I would be remiss in not mentioning it's actually my mother's birthday today. I don't think she's watching, but I'm sending it out there to the universe or 20 miles down the road. Happy birthday, Mother.
Yes. Well, today we've got a pretty packed show. Should we see what's going on? Let's see what we've got going. So, we have Kristen with us doing our news and trending, and boy, we've got some big ones.
We have, and returning to the Viewscreen, we have Edwin Hodge here for a sociology special. Hey, Edwin.
And we have Amy.
I was like, it's not me, but okay.
Yes, Amy from the Space Builder is going to here talk to us about activism. So very important, especially at this time of year.
Absolutely. So we've got a 2-for-1 Amy today.
Yes.
And we've got Edwin here. Here he is. Thanks for joining us, Edwin. So shall we begin, Amy?
Oh my goodness, let's get to this.
Heading over to the newsroom. Kristen's back as well. How are you, my love, after a week off?
Oh, I'm good. And what a week it was. I feel like I haven't stopped moving in so long. It's been nice having a bit of a lazy weekend this weekend to make up for last week, which was anything but. So,
Are
Did you
there
have a good
any
time?
travel stories that we need to be aware of?
well, I mean, for those who like metal, yes, I've got some great stories. So if we have any metal loving Star Trek fans and you want to talk about an amazing show with Gojira, Spirit Box, and Korn, hit me up. We can talk about it offline. But that show was everything. And then 2 days after I got home, I went and saw Evanescence with Hailstorm and The Warning here in my tiny little town of Kelowna. They were just in my backyard, so I just got to drive down to the concert. It was much easier.
Nice.
So my ears are ringing a lot, but happy to be home and back to my normal swing of things. But down in Seattle, I got to go to the Museum of Pop Culture, and they have an amazing collection of Star Trek paraphernalia there, including the uniform that Patrick Stewart wore in season 1.
Oh, wow.
So I got to tell all my friends about, this is why they split it, is, in season 2, the doctor's notes started rolling in and being like, we can't wear this anymore. And bless my friends, they were like, wow.
You sounded like you knew everything about Star Trek. I love it.
It's well. I mean, they wanted to. We also went and walked through the Nirvana section there, which was really, really powerful because, I mean, it's Nirvana. But then there was this tiny little store in Tacoma that we stopped at, and I look over, and what do I see? Is a collection of First Contact still in box figures, and it was our 3 favorite ladies. And Lily.
Oh my gosh, Lily.
And they were $4 a piece. So I was like, don't mind if I just grab these and run away from the store giddy. So
very nice.
I was very excited at that moment. So now I get to add to my little wall back here with my new.
Yes, a good get for sure.
Yes.
Well, what have you got for us this week, my lovely?
Let's jump into the news. So a lot came out yesterday, so I don't have slides, but let's start with some breaking stuff real quick, and then we'll get into my usual spiel. One is the release date has been announced for the Section 31 movie, and I am very excited. Hold on, I'm just going to pull up the exact date so I don't get it wrong. January 24th, 2025. Yeah. Just a couple of months away. Like, it's going to be here before we know it. Yeah. And it will be streaming. It's not going to be in theaters. And it will, I'm assuming, be on Paramount Plus. So
I was doing the counting. So if Lower Decks starts next week and we get 2 episodes next week, that means we have 9 weeks of Lower Decks, which takes us, which means we'll have less than a month again without Star Trek before Section 31. So we're going to do quite well now with the drought has ended.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Okay, good.
And I do like that I'm wondering if they've intentionally planned it or that's just the universe working in our favor because we're so awesome. To not give us too much, right? To not drown us. I know some other series that I watch and I love, it's hard to keep up when you've got 4 iterations of the franchise airing at the same time. And you're like, okay, I'm over it. I'm over it. So this keeps us always wanting more, which I appreciate. So that's great. And then the other one is that Starfleet Academy has already been renewed for season 2.
Yeah, how does this happen?
How? Maybe the lead up to it, the hype behind it, seeing everybody so excited and the response to who's in it. They're just they're like, this is gonna be at least 2 seasons. So but I'm not complaining because if we know that we have at least 2 to look forward to, that's fantastic.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this happened with Strange New Worlds as well. I'm sure they renewed for season 2 before season 1 had even aired.
You're correct. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember. My memory's not that good. I barely remember yesterday. And then another one is apparently there has been some money moving around within Skydance. So when I reported the one time on the Ellison, the father's son, apparently the dad has pulled out a bunch of money from his stocks and whatnot. And apparently the last time he did this was to give money to his son to make a big purchase. So yeah, Justin let me know about this last night, and this could be an indication that they are looking to purchase a large asset. So is that large asset still going to be Paramount Plus as it was rumored a while back?
Right.
So we'll see.
So.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So a few, and then the other one, if you want to look it up, I don't have X, so I can't actually go on and look at what happened. But again, Justin and I were talking about this one night where recently there's been another run-in between Trump and George Takei online, where Trump decided to, I don't know where he's making this connection, but he said January 6th was like a Japanese internment camp. And I'm not understanding where that connection is. But anyway, obviously, George is going to come on and refute that, being somebody who actually lived in one of those for so long for no reason, right? Yeah. So these claims are insensitive and tone deaf to the experiences that people have had. So anyway, that was a big thing that blew up online this week as well. So don't forget to register to vote for all of you down in the States. The day is quickly approaching. We just had our provincial election yesterday, and it was what it is.
I mean, UK politicians usually avoid doing anything that's quite controversial immediately before an election. And this is just an example of Trump doesn't know how to be anything but.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But yet his followers still eat it up.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's where I'm confused, I guess, as a rational human being. But anyway, let's not make this about politics. This is about Star Trek. So much more fun than that. So let's jump into the usual. Happy 57th birthday to the Doomsday Machine. To this day is still rated one of the top 4 original series episodes between City on the Edge of Forever, Amok Time, and Trouble with Tribbles. Comes the Doomsday Machine. We meet Decker, who is not helping the situation at all with the planet killer. And it's a great episode that shows the resiliency of the Enterprise crew. So if you're looking for an episode to rewatch today, try the Doomsday Machine, aired today 57 years ago.
Nice.
Crazy.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And next we have my meme of the week. I love this. So Starfleet, when Voyager gets home, yay. Starfleet, when they start reading Janeway logs.
What?
Excuse me? And so I was laughing, thinking about like what would be the top, let's say, 3 events throughout the series of Voyager that would have them with this reaction. I think we all know one.
I happened to watch that particular episode this week.
You watched Tubix this week?
I did.
Nice.
I got to the end of 2372 in my rewatch.
You're my hero. So Amy, what do you think might be another event?
Well, I was thinking Scorpion when they, got with the Borg. Like that. Well, that would never happen.
Yeah, you assimilated yourself. Excuse you.
Yeah.
And then another one I was thinking would be Threshold, and be like, you have lizard babies out there somewhere?
You traveled how fast?
Yeah. Excuse me. So anyway, I thought this was cute. So
in fairness to Janeway, there's quite a few. You could go Equinox, you could go giving the technology to the Herodian. There's quite a lot to go from.
Yeah. And I mean, I know people are really hard on Janeway. I see it all the time in the online discourse. And 2 things. One is, okay, she's literally in a situation no other Starfleet captain have ever found themselves. So give her some slack. And 2, would you be this harsh if this were a man?
Ooh.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I'm sure our guest Amy Imhoff will have a lot to say about this one.
Okay, next we've got this great story about 7 new species of frogs have been found in Madagascar. So their genus name is Bufis, and they are distinct for their very specific whistle tone that they make. And apparently this whistle tone is very high pitched to help their mates to hear them over the rushing water, because they live very close to fast moving streams and rivers. And it reminded the biology team of the sound of the Trek tricorder.
Wow.
But when I heard it, it actually kind of reminded me more of the beep of the communicator badge, but that's neither here nor there. And then they also said that it was also due to how far they had to trek into the rainforest to find the frogs. And I was like, that's cute. The chirps are, of course, assumed to be a mating call, a way of the male frogs showing their suitability to the females. And they have named them all after 7 Star Trek captains. So we have Kirky Picardy, who is featured right here, Siskoy, Janeway, Archery, Pikey, and Burnham.
Oh, cute.
So just showing that Trek really does reach into all facets of science, including biology, and that people who are out there looking for new species know this fandom, know this franchise. Yes. And I just love it. I love it. So
I particularly like Picardy B. It sounds like Cardi B.
Cardi B. Oh, Kelvin, I love you. I love you. But they're so cute too. Look at his little beady eyes.
Yes.
It's adorable. So I thought this was just the most charming little news story to come out this week. We have also some interesting news coming in about the new models from the fan home. So Jack Trestel did a review. He was given the first couple, and apparently the reviews are quite good. So he really enjoys the detail, of course, the nacelles in the back having translucent material in them. So they really do like shimmer the light off, and they, he said, really added some authenticity to it. They're quite big. He had some pictures where he compared them to the previous models he had, and they are quite a bit bigger. He said the one thing with the Titan was the little top heavy. So you just got to make sure that it's not anywhere that it can get knocked over. But otherwise, he really did have a lot of good things to say about them. They also come with these magazines that go through the making of the ships, like in the series. So the history behind them, and again showing all the parts that went in and all went into making the model as well. So he's got a really great review. If you Google Jack Trestel and fan home, you can read his entire article. You can watch the video clips that he's got. And then he said that each one, if I'm correct, each model is 65 pounds if you buy them separately, or it's 55 pounds if you sign up for the subscription, the monthly subscription, where you get one every month. So you save a little bit of money by doing it that way. So if you're looking to add to any collection, apparently this would be the way to go, because people are saying that, or this guy's saying that the models are just fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's nice to know that the new merchandise coming out is not failing to impress.
Right.
Yeah. And I love this next story with Miss Katie Sackhoff herself has said that she wants to be on Trek, and I'm living for it. So she wants it to complete her sci-fi trifecta. So she's been, of course, on Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars. So I think it's only right that she somehow comes on to Trek. I mean, we have a series. It's just been renewed for a 2nd season. Let's write her in. And she had Jonathan Frakes on her podcast recently and pretty much made her pitch to him. So
nice. Very good.
I love it when people are just so out there and just like, so when are you going to give me a job? When am I going to be able to be in this franchise. And so anyway, I really hope that they find a space for her. I love, of course, we all do love strong women in sci-fi, and I think she would just be amazing to write into the series somehow.
Agreed.
Yes.
I love her. Yeah.
And we have the first hint for the unnamed Star Trek comedy, of course, with Tawny Newsome. Pretty much all she's quoted as saying is that it's going to take place in the 25th century, because she wants to be able to pull in all the people that she's met and now are part of her Trek family. So she wants to be able to circle them all through and have them not need to be de-aged by CGI. So I really love that approach. I think it's adorable too, that how close they are, how much they love each other, how much they enjoy working together. So much so that when a show comes out, they're like, let's not mess with any timelines. I want to see my friends being able to come in and us have fun together. So that was a cute little story, and we don't get a ton of details, obviously, keeping it close to the chest, which is fine, but at least we know that we will see recurring friends come through.
So this is interesting, because Starfleet Academy is in the Future Discovery timeline. Section 31, we still don't really know, but clearly it's a one-off anyway, and Strange New Worlds is in the past.
Yeah.
So in a way, this is the closest we've got to Star Trek Legacy, because it's going to continue after Picard season 3. Yeah. So you can bring in Raffi and Seven and TNG randoms, and so here we go.
So is this then the same time period as Lower Decks, or is that still 24th century?
Lower Decks is, strictly speaking, 24th. So Lower Decks takes place a couple of years before Prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got Lower Decks, Prodigy, and then
Picard.
This live comedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
but technically, yes. I mean, you could have Tendi wander on as a commander. She's just not. We've just not seen her for a couple of years.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I would love to see some of the characters that we've seen be so serious throughout the years come into a setting where they can let their comedy chops go. And I mean, we all know that Patrick Stewart is freaking hilarious. What was that show in the UK that he was on for a while? Kelvin, do you remember?
He was on Extras, and
Blunt.
And his sense of humor is amazing. So I hope that he jumps at the chance to do this. I mean, he doesn't have to do it every week. He doesn't have to have a big role in producing. He can just show up, be silly, and go home. So I really hope that he takes advantage of whatever is going to happen with this. But,
brilliant.
Yes. And then, of course, finishing the thing it off today with my series Spooky Trek. So this week in my horror movie rewatch was Hellraiser 3. So I did Hellraiser. Was it just last time I was on? That had, of course, Andrew J. Robinson. And then I was doing my Hellraiser rewatch, and I was like, right, Terry Farrell is in Hellraiser 3. And she goes head-to-head with Pinhead in, again, just campy horror greatness. And she, I mean, she's gorgeous. She's a great actress. So she can make anything amazing. And you throw that into the Hellraiser series and you're going to get gold. So if you're wanting to see Terry Farrell in a very different setting from Deep Space Nine, go ahead and watch Hellraiser 3 this week.
Brilliant. Great stuff, Kristen. Let's bring today's guests in and see what they think of today's news. So, Amy, let's start with you. Anything in the news there that takes your fancy?
First of all, I loved Blunt Talk with Patrick Stewart, so I totally agree that he would be hilarious. That was a very short-lived series, so I guess they didn't. I mean, lots of things get canceled that shouldn't be, but that seems like it's going to be really fun. I am so pumped that Tawny is part of that, because I think she's a great ambassador for Star Trek. Worked a little bit with her on Yuri's Night and brought her in as our MC for that event. That is a global space party they have every year. We did that last year, so that was super fun.
Nice.
But I also wrote down about Katie Sackhoff wanting to be in Trek. My girl.
Right? Come on.
I am going to Chicago on Thursday for the Battlestar Galactica 20th anniversary event.
Wow.
And I am a huge BSG fan. I have the Last Supper photo, which has been signed by everyone except for 3 people, all of whom will be in attendance. I will get to and I also have a piece of the Galactica that I got at an auction. It is a panel from Admiral Adama's quarters.
Oh my God.
I have already had Mary McDonnell sign it, and of course, a gentleman, Eddie Olmos, who played Adama. So it's them, and then also Colonel Ty, Michael Hogan, who is going to be there. He had a stroke in recent years, but he has recovered sufficiently that he is going to be there. So I'm very excited that they're going to have him. So I need Katie to be part of Star Trek. Like, that would be her podcast is great. I have not caught up at all, but she had Bear McCreary on recently, and I really enjoy his music. So
awesome,
excellent,
great stuff. And Edwin, what did you think of the news today?
Having Katie Sackhoff in Star Trek would just be everything. Yeah. She's incredible in everything she's been in. And as Kristen was talking about this news, all I could think of was her as like some hardcore, like battle tested admiral that's just like rolling up to Starfleet Academy and being like, all right, folks, this is what it's really like out there.
Yes.
And
that would be amazing. I would be here for that. I kind of lost track of everything else because I was so focused on Katie Sackhoff. I mean, in Mandalorian,
I did hear you say the thing about Janeway, where you were like, that you had recently watched Tuvix. Kate recently joined Bluesky, so she may have commented on something John Van Sitter said about Tuvix or Tuvix. So go in there and check it out.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that Tuvix had to have broken a couple of regs there. I mean, that's that's going to go in the annals as one of the most controversial decisions Janeway's ever made. Oh, a sentient being! I'm going to tear him in half. Done. Okay, well, why not?
It was 2 sentient beings
first, though. Yes, exactly.
I'm on that. It's not hard to guess that.
Well, we do have Peter in the chat. It says, glad that Fan Home is continuing the ship models that Eagle Moss did, especially releasing ships from the current Trek shows. So, yes.
Yeah, it's and again, it's nice to see quality replicas. You know, you never know over time when people are continuing on with long-lived fandoms, whether or not the quality is going to keep going, and I'm so happy to see that it is. So
I don't get the Eagle Moss Fan Home ships, but I do get the Hallmark Christmas tree decorations every year, and they've already announced next year's, and it's going to be the Titan, or the Enterprise G, whichever way you want to look at it.
I know Dave Blath is very excited about that. And Todd Stashbrook is on hand at Comic-Con this weekend to talk about it. So that was really cool. And I bought my Dr. Crusher ornament from this year.
Did you get it? Oh,
yes, I did. I made them sell me the floor model because they did not have any left.
Great. Oh, Christos wants to know what our thoughts are on the nacelle action figures that were announced this weekend. So we covered it on the news a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, Kristen? And they've given the names of the first 6, and they're very deep cuts. I think we've got Helico Tuvix again, and Preston from the Wrath of Khan. And we've got Wayoon in a few months' time as well. So very brilliant and inspired choices rather than just going down the obvious routes. But I'm just still a little bit bummed that they're not 4.5 inches to match the original Playmates line. Yeah. But it just means I'll have to get all of them again.
Jeffrey Combs is getting
Ron, I agree. I want a like the detail. I want it lighting up. I want it to make noise. Maybe it comes on a stand and it can like slowly have a I don't know. I agree though. We need a new Deep Space Nine.
We are putting a lot out to the universe at the moment in terms of
Yes.
where we're going to be casting Katie Sackhoff, what we want as models, sizes of action figures. So let's manifest.
But let's
Kristen.
if she gets cast in Trek at some point, does that mean eventually they will make a model of Katie Sackhoff in a Star Trek uniform?
There you go. There you go.
You can go with my little Starbuck and my little Bo-Katan.
Yes.
Thank you, as always, Kristen, for the news.
Yes.
We will see you a little later in the show. Thanks to the guests as well. You'll join us very, very shortly. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yes. And thanks to those in the chat putting in your comments. We love reading them and keep them coming. So we've got very excited. Amy, we have known Amy for many, many years. I'm just so glad and honored that, Amy, you have agreed to come on the Viewscreen and share with us your activism, because you are out there and like you, to me, I just feel is inspiration to get out and do something. Like it just doesn't matter. Just do something, because every little bit adds to this drop of this bucket of us wanting to get Star Trek philosophy out there into the world, because we know that's the best way to live. So welcome to the Viewscreen, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like you can be We Are Amy, like like I remember like what Amy Poehler and Amy Schumer came out one time at the Emmys and they were like, "We are Amy."
Yeah.
So I thought that would be perfect. But yes, it's so great to be here. Thank you for both having me. And like you said we've been friends and seeing each other in Vegas and elsewhere for years now.
Yes.
And I see underneath it says Amy Imhoff of Space Builders. That is my friend Ubaldo, who unfortunately could not join us today. He was at the IAC, the International Astronautical Conference in Milan, which is a yearly event for the aerospace crew. I would have loved to have gone to Milan this year. I have recently started a new job, so it was just not in the cards. I've recently started with Princeton University as their comms consultant for the NASA Interstellar Mapping Project. They're going to be launching a spacecraft probe. I like to say probe because we have that very Star Trek concept of what a probe does.
Yes.
This is what a probe does on Star Trek. So it's called IMAP, and I would love it if everybody could follow IMAP Space Mission on Instagram. It stands for Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe. They're going to be studying the way particles behave in our galactic neighborhood within the heliosphere, which is everything the sun touches, everything in the sun's influence. And we are protected by the sun from the other things that come in interstellar medium, which is the gas and things between stars. So planets, asteroids, and all sorts of different particles and things we don't even know exist yet. So they're going to be studying particles and how they behave. They're energetic. Neutral atoms are one of the primary things they're studying, and the probe will have 10 instruments on it. So it's very cool. And I've been learning tons about that, and I've been working on their social media and kind of bringing them up to a more elevated sense of your social media rather than just sharing photos from their live stream where they're assembling the probe, which is in the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab in Maryland. So
wow. So are you back east?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in. I live about an hour and 15 minutes north of New York City. I'm on the Connecticut coast, so we're having a lovely fall here in Connecticut.
Yes.
But yeah, you mentioned activism and on supporting these big causes. This is especially important to me during the election season. We are facing quite a choice, and I think it is a choice between democracy and fascism. So let's all support democracy. And that is the Star Trek way. And you had talked about bringing Star Trek into different areas of life, and you mentioned the biologists who had named the frogs. It's so much involved in the STEM, and I like to say STEAM these days, because the arts are such a huge part of, I see all of these scientists who they're musicians, they're artists, they're doing all sorts of cool stuff, and they're very smart. STEM-minded brain also includes a vast appreciation and participation in the arts. So that's where Star Trek interacts perfectly.
I love that. I love that. You'll get the writers in there as well with your acronym.
And it's very important. As a writer, you know, I was trained, I have my master's in literature, but I was a technical writer for a decade before I started switching over to aerospace clients, because I noticed that there is a huge need in aerospace for effective marketing. Space is cool, and I think a lot of them rely on the fact that space is cool to kind of sell their product, whatever that might be. But they are now so many commercial space companies that they really need to differentiate.
Well, and I love what you say about STEAM, including the A in the arts, because I feel like the arts gives us another point of view to view the science that we're learning, and that you are going to use the arts in your marketing, because that's where everyday people are going to be able to relate and grasp and see this picture that describes all the stupid scientific words that no one's going to read, you know? So using that in your marketing, and like I said, pulling in that excitement of space that we still just are so fascinated with is a perfect combination.
And we get these photos back from the James Webb Space Telescope, and they print them on shirts and scarves and all sorts of things. And, you know, the science behind it is supported by the visuals, and good visuals, you know, teaching teams to take a good video or take a good selfie. Like, I mean, that's important, especially because so many of the prominent folks now in aerospace are, you know, they're in their 50s and 60s, and they are not as familiar with making great visuals for online consumption, which is not their fault. They didn't grow up with that. And I like to say I'm tech support for retired Starfleet officers. Working with Kate Mulgrew, she is lovely. Technology is not her strong point, and she would totally say that to anybody. But it's, you know, you want to help get the message out there. You know, she's in a play right now on off Broadway at the Irish Repertory Theater, and that's a little theater, and they are doing a great job. They have hired a good social team. Kind of get that word out. And, you know, they wouldn't be able to attract as many people to sell out shows if we didn't have social media. So we were able recently to do the Women of Trek for Kamala, recorded a little quick video of Kate in the studio basement of the theater, so that we could make sure she got her message out there about voting blue and saving democracy.
That was a great event.
Oh, you did attend. Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, I registered for that, and I got held up at work, children issues. But popped on. I was like, oh my gosh, it just was exactly what I needed.
Yeah, and I think so Marnie Mosman, which is John Delancey's wife, she and Kitty Swink, was married to Armin Shimmerman. They really were instrumental in bringing that to life. They did a great job. Everybody got to say something. Pretty much every woman of Star Trek who was able to attended.
I just say my favorite part was when it had to have been like 16 women, and they just went one by one, and they said a reason why they were voting for Kamala. And it was a different reason every single time. And it was a different important reason. And it's just like, there's no other election that I remember having point after point after point be so important in this election.
Yeah, it's so important. And I get, you know, you scroll and you're doom scrolling, and it's like later at night and you're getting worried. And I'm like, this is a choice between a dictator who wants to take away your rights. Unless you are a straight white man with a lot of money, you're not going to do very well under another Trump administration. And they want to roll us back. They want to, I mean, I already have less rights at 40 than I did at 20, and that is not okay.
Yeah.
And I heard Denise Crosby speak about her experience.
Yes.
Have a She had miscarried. This was a baby she wanted, and she had miscarried and had to have the procedure, which is identical to an abortion procedure. A D&C is the same no matter what the reason. And as someone who would really like to be a mom, and I'm 40, like I said, the chances of my miscarrying are higher. And I feel like being part of the space industry, which is located primarily in Texas and Florida, I can't travel to those states while I'm pregnant. I will not travel to those states if I become pregnant. So, and I've turned down a job in a Florida-based space company because I said, no, I like having rights. I'm not moving to Florida. I'm not raising my children in a school system where they're banning books left and right.
Yeah. It's one of the great powers of that event to hear those personal stories of our heroes. But from my perspective, as someone here in the UK, it just beggars belief, quite frankly, that it is such a barbaric policy that is present at the moment. It blows our mind over here.
It's very close to my heart, and I know a lot of the women who are involved. And I see whenever Kate posts, as her media manager, I see all the responses. I see a lot of the ignorant responses she gets. A lot of people saying that Janeway would never vote for Kamala, and I was like, "Do you think Janeway would vote for Trump? Are you out of your mind?"
Turkey's voting for Christmas.
It's not the same Republican Party. I don't think people understand that. It's not the same Republican Party that that I grew up studying in grade school and high school. This is fascism and people chanting white power and lifting up KKK and all the things that we want to get away from to progress and build that Roddenberry future.
Yeah.
One of the awesome things that I was able to do as Kate's media director was bring her into contact with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is a huge Janeway fan. And at the DNC, she went on the Jimmy Kimmel show just a few weeks, in August, a few weeks ago. And she talked about Janeway's influence and, why. And of course, he loved that. They always love that. Yeah. And, I shared a video that I had taken of Kate surprising AOC at her last rally before she became elected. And it's funny because some people, there was a little bit of online bullying happening when I posted that video. And I thought of what you said, which is, if I were a man and I were proud of this accomplishment, would I be getting pushed back from people saying, "Oh, you're just self-aggrandizing by talking about what you did for Kate"? And I'm like, I said, do you think these meetings happen in a vacuum? Like people see, I was the one who said, you have to reply to her. You have to, she's such a huge fan and she's going to change the way we look at politics, and she's going to change the trajectory of young women, especially young women of color in politics. And I love that she and Stacey Abrams and Cory Booker and all these people who showed up. They just did a Trek the Vote for Kamala through Vote Save America, which is part of the Pod Save America network. And then even other things that are not politically oriented. I'm working with Trek Talks on raising money for food insecurity and people in that is a Hollywood Food Coalition dedicated event. So that is people in the LA area. But it's something small that we can solve food insecurity right now. Like the Gene Roddenberry quote that I always reference, which is one that Jonathan Frakes says all the time. In the future, there will be no war, there'll be no greed, and there'll be no hunger, and every child will know how to read. And we can solve literacy and food insecurity, right? We have surpluses. I don't know about you or you shop. I always think, what are they doing with all this extra food that's like in these cases that they make to sell at like Whole Foods and these big retailers?
One of the conflicting aspects of my job, I'm a food inspector. So obviously I would go into restaurants, food businesses, and clearly it's an offense to offer for sale expired food. But then what's going to become of all of that food that is good today, bad tomorrow? It's not really that bad. And there's just so much that goes to wastage. And so much misunderstanding about date coding as well. What's a quality issue versus what's a safety issue? You can eat expired food that is of a lesser quality you're not going to become ill. But businesses just throw it away because it's a risk to their brand.
Right. And we are so litigious that it's the same thing with when we feed, thankfully, children get free breakfast and lunch when they're at school. However, the waste is disgusting. And where my school's at, like we are right in the midst of shelters and stuff like that, where it's like, hey, let's donate this food. We cannot. The district, that is highly big no. Again, because this food is meant for kids. Well, but it's just, we've got to find a workaround. We've got to.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics around food distribution, and I think John Billingsley he's on the board of the Hollywood Food Coalition. I was able to visit both of the warehouse / serving centers where they have meals. I went with him and he introduced me to the team, and hopefully going to do some collaboration. And I'd love to bring him into some of the partnerships with some of these aerospace companies that are looking to make a difference, because a lot of the companies are obviously focused on research and development, R&D for their own products. But I think if you as a company are going to be launching things to space, and there's also like associated climate issues and waste and things that go along with creating these products, if you partner with organizations and demonstrate that you're giving back to a community, I think it's great for your investors. It's great for the public's perception of space, because we know that certain individuals that we always get asked about when we say we work in the aerospace are not doing their part and are making problems rather than using their vast wealth to be the solution. That they could be solving so many problems and they aren't. Things like Trek Talks and Chase Masterson's Pop Culture Hero Coalition, which I know you guys have worked with and done things with. She's really trying to create awareness, and they're partnering with the YMCA. So they are a very legitimate program, and they could use lots more volunteers, lots more help, fundraisers. So hopefully we'll be able to do something for Giving Tuesday for them. I'd love to get people involved with that. And I also just became a Cosmic Girls ambassador. This is a foundation started by Dr. Mindy Howard, she was born here in the US. She became a Dutch citizen she got her PhD, and she was on the fast track to be an astronaut. So she's a dual citizen now. So if she goes to space, I think she will be the first Dutch astronaut in space. And she has started a foundation to help upskill girls in STEM and get them excited about becoming astronauts, becoming people who are at the forefront of mission planning and working to it's a space pipeline. And we have a lot of boys and men are very much encouraged to go into STEM and saying, space is not just for boys anymore. We have the number of women who have been to space is very small. It's like, I think about 73 women, when there have been over 700 people in space at this point.
Wow.
So it's a big difference. So it's only like 10% of the total. And we definitely need to be more than 10%. So Cosmic Girls is for teenagers ages 14 to 18. They're doing contests right now where you can get involved, and the winner of the contest will be chosen for a 0G flight, and hopefully for a future suborbital flight, which is one of like the Virgin Galactic or a Space Perspective, where they're building this like space balloon. It's not 100% sure who they would go up with yet, but there are so many options now that are going just over the Kármán line, which is what William Shatner did. So you can see the Earth from space, and really kind of everyone who talks about seeing the Earth from space says that it's a shared effect. It's called the overview effect. And they see the Earth as this, it's this beautiful, teeming with life. All of our problems are contained in this one, relatively small place, considering the vastness of the universe. And they all experience this like very spiritual feeling of connectedness with humanity, and, a desire to help fix our problems. And if everybody could see that perspective, we might change some of our hateful, greedy ways and get, we have to keep going to Star Trek every time there's there's bombing and wars. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop it. We need to go to Star Trek. We don't need to go the other way. We don't want to be dragged backward.
You know, talking about or listening to you talk about how your perspective changes when you see the Earth that way, like it just reminded me of seeing William Shatner. I mean, I have watched him, basically for the past 50 years, and to see his transformation in the Amazon video, series that he
went
was
up
in.
with Blue Origin,
Yeah.
which Bezos founded, who's Amazon founder.
I just was very impressed with that transformation that we visually saw. If we could get everyone to have that perspective.
Although I wasn't a fan of how he phrased, he said that he's looked out into space and he saw death. And I was like, that's not necessarily, I mean, yes, space is trying to kill you, but it's not, because it's not where human beings live. But I didn't want him to make the scientific community and the space community feel like their work in space.
I just felt it was a function of his age, and where everywhere you look at death.
He was channeling Bones.
He's in his 90s. It's although he keeps chugging along. So
he is, my goodness.
But I do hope Hait eventually goes to space. She said she's willing, but we haven't. She's busy all the time. I would love to see her perspective and hear what she has to say, because she's very eloquent and well-spoken, and she's got such an immensity of, and a capacity for wonder and awe, and she loves reading, and she's so into, Brian Greene is a good friend of hers. He's a physicist. And you just want to hear the perspective of people like that who are, doing good things with she's an Alzheimer's advocate. She's on the RFK Human Rights Foundation, which we just posted actually an auction through RFK. She works with them frequently. They're like a very prominent organization, especially here in New York City. And everybody online was posting and said RFK Jr. and everyone was, no, read, do a little Google on who RFK Sr. was and what he stood for, because it's a lot different than the kind of nonsense we've seen in the media from RFK Jr., which I don't know what that man is doing. That is not who she is supporting.
Yeah,
it was funny to see that like so many people replied and were like horrified that she was supporting him, and I was like, no.
Yeah,
do a little Google, do a little search.
Yeah.
But do you have any other questions for me? I'd love to talk more about
well, maybe let's bring in Edwin and Kristen, see what they've just made of what they've heard. So Kristen, do you want to start? Was there anything that Amy's been talking about that resonated there with you?
Kind of just all of it, really. When people ask me, whenever I get discussion about like religion and whatnot, I always just say, I follow the Bible of track. I follow, right? Like it's just everything I need to know, I learned from watching this show. And this is why, right? Because it is so much than just a science fiction show. It has an ethos and a template for pursuing and taking on life that is unlike anything else. And it is just so about finding strengths in differences as opposed to being afraid of differences, and finding power in lifting others up. And I think that if we ever get to a point where we can have a lack of competition for basic needs such as food, safe drinking water, a safe place to live, and healthcare, we'll be able to really appreciate other people. Right now, there's just such a scarcity of resources, and not really.
Yeah.
An inability to afford the resources that are being held by giant corporations.
Unequal distribution.
That's causing us to just, I in my hometown up here in little old Canada, there is a really good movement I love happening where it's called the ugly food movement, where when farmers get rid of all of their stuff, for our local farmers start selling the ugly food for really, really cheap. It's still fresh. It's fine. It's just not aesthetically pleasing. So your carrots may have 3 legs and a penis, right? And you're like, well, you know what? It's still food. So
I've seen that. I've seen that. It's like ugly greens, or like I've seen that around here. Yeah.
Yeah. So that really helps people who are on a fixed income to eat, and not just eat the stuff that's expired canned goods sitting at a food bank, right? And our food bank has done so much to partner with local orchards and farm life up here, that there's like when I worked and volunteered with the food bank, what the baskets that you see go out are full of fresh greens and fresh fruits for people, so that they can still have some dignity with their nutrition. So I think just certain things like that is showing that we're going kind of in the right direction. I know, Edwin, you and I are going to have to talk about the results of last night.
Was that your provincial election?
Yeah.
I know I saw that Matthew Simone from Trek Division was at the polls yesterday. So I said, what are you guys voting for? Because I'm so inundated with our news that I wasn't aware that you guys were also voting last night.
Yeah, our politics tend to be a little less dramatic at times for now.
You're the apartment above the meth lab right now.
Basically.
Yeah. But anyway, I just, all this stuff is so amazing to see. And I just love that people are taking the vision that was established 58 years ago and really continuing to act on it, and not just enjoy it for the storytelling, but seeing how they're giving us a blueprint for the future.
Yeah.
And Edwin, how does activism fit in with the teachings of sociology?
I mean, I always tell my new students that sociology doesn't make you popular at parties. It's kind of a buzzkill. So I mean, sociology is primarily the study of inequality. So most of what we study is where things fall apart, and it's wonderful to see that there is this ethos that comes out of Star Trek, which, I mean, really, at its heart, the ethos is secular humanism. Like that's what Roddenberry was, and so seeing that we have this within the broader community, you know, dare I call it a subculture of Trek fans who are not only sort of oriented around their love of transporters and cool starships, but also around the philosophy, right? That we can overcome, we can get over ourselves, and we can become better than what we were. It is just, for me, the frustration is it comes out of the fact that there are very much people who are actively invested in us being not getting over ourselves, not being better than we are, because for them, that's money, right? It makes money for them. Like, Amy said it, we can solve poverty right now.
Yeah.
We can solve literacy right now. We can actually solve homelessness right now. Like, there are more empty houses in the United States than there are homeless people.
Yeah.
It is like, that is just a basic fact.
Yeah.
And so all of the problems that we are encountering that seem so intractable are really only that way because there are these groups that, and again, like, I'm so happy for, like, it's so great seeing like Blue Origin and all these other companies, really opening up space, but they're owned by the same people that are making life hell on earth. So it is this real challenge. But I am happy to see that there are so many small little movements starting, and so many initiatives to empower people and to give them that perspective that, that up until very recently, only astronauts and the very rich have been able to engage in, right? Which is looking down on the Earth and going, oh, right, that's it. That's all of it.
The funny part is that the people who are going to space on these commercial flights who are not the official PhD in astrophysics, super trained NASA scientists, European Space Agency, JAXA, etc. It is more women, more people of color. It is so many more people who are being chosen for these missions. I think of Dr. Cyan Proctor, who's the first Black woman to pilot a spacecraft. She went up with the Inspiration 4 mission, which was a SpaceX mission. And she, that was not just an over the line come back Shatner event. And then they have scientists like Kelly Girardi is going to go up with the first all female crew. The space gal, Emily Calandrelli, she's going to be going up. She was part of the Space Cadets for Harris, a group that Bill Nye was really a big part of in the Planetary Society. Like, the people who are going up with these private space companies are more diverse and not of the higher up echelon of people. We had all Katya Echevarria. I say her last name. I'm not Spanish. she's the first Mexican woman in space. They made a Barbie of her, which it's great that they're seeing all of this diversity, but we need to translate it down. Like, it has to trickle down, essentially, which I know is a controversial term that is not applicable to what I'm talking about, but when you take it in the economic sense. But you have to put different perspectives of people on these spacecraft so we get more people talking about climate change and things that are really affecting us, that we need. And like you said, solving food insecurity, and people are trying to use that. There's a company called Chip Shape Urban Farms. One of my clients, Above Space, partners with them. They're trying to solve not only growing food in space, which is one of our biggest challenges, is to get fresh food to astronauts, is also to solve food deserts here in the United States. Yeah. They want to grow. They take the shipping containers, they convert the shipping containers into like hydroponic gardens, and they want to. There's so much science behind it that is, Dr. Proctor says, when you solve for space, you solve for Earth. So we can take some of those scientific workarounds that we've tried to grow food for astronauts and apply them down here where we're not able to grow food and get it to communities as easily. So hopefully that's, it's the pieces are there, but people are having a hard time bringing them all together. Yeah. If you've ever project managed anything in your life, you know that.
Well, I find the frustrating part about all of that, because urban gardens, very real thing, right? But it's keeping people in those positions of poverty that, like you said, keeps other people in power, keeps the division there, because it keeps minorities in a place of that poverty where they're just fighting to survive. They can never actually thrive, right? So it's this weird, like, cyclical thing. And then somehow these movements where we're just trying to bring, like you said, food to somebody or teach a kid how to read are being demonized by the other side of the table, saying, oh, well, can you believe this horrible group of people want to feed children breakfast?
And it's so mystifying. Why are you against free food? Why are you against
communism?
One. I'm like, why are people fighting about who gets health care? We all need health care. Everyone has eyes and teeth. Like, we need to take care of these things.
Yeah. I will say that's where I'm very, very happy to be Canadian.
Yes, I am jealous of you. And I'm also jealous of Kelvin with the NHS. And that. I mean,
it's the Amy's here.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that part out politically.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your wonderful activism and, again, talking about it with us here to get us excited and to know that we too can make a difference. We will be coming back, but we're going to take a quick promo break. What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristen. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. 2 episodes enter the arena, 1 comes out victorious. Join hosts Joe and Kevin and a guest as they debate which should win the Batleth battle. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through the Star Trek cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into beta canon with Peter, host of the online Trek Book Club on Twitter, and his new companion, Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Trexperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Whether you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch the Viewscreen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with Season 2 starting in September for a 10-week run. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with a LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea Bag. And for our Patreon members, we have the Hive Mind with monthly script readings, Let's Fly, a Discovery reaction show, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Wow. Well, we are feeling very inspired, and I'm sure you guys watching are too by everything Amy's just been saying and our discussion there. So we're going to continue straight in and bring in our final guest. Please welcome back to the view screen. It's Edwin. We realize you're on the clock, so let's get straight to it. And remind the viewers a little bit about yourself, Edwin, and your role, and what you've been up to since the last time you were with us at the start of the year.
Sure. So my name is Edwin Hodge. I'm a professor of sociology at the University of Victoria on the far fringes of North America. And my primary area of research is actually extremism, radicalization, and conspiratorial ideology.
Wow.
But I try to balance that negativity by also being an avid Star Trek fan. I try to sort of use that to keep optimistic. I actually taught a course a couple of years ago on the sociology of Star Trek that was incredibly well received.
Brilliant.
That's who I am.
Yes.
So you may not be very popular at parties then, by your own admission.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about, I mean, last time you were speaking about how you were using Star Trek as examples in your teaching, and have you been doing anything more of the same recently? What's new?
Yeah, so I mean, we're now in October, but I mean, as you know, September was the anniversary of the Bell riots from Past Tense and DS9, and I've been asked by others before, like, what do we make of the Bell riots? Like, is this sort of art imitating life kind of a deal? And for those of you that haven't watched or haven't watched it in a while, the Bell riots is basically Cisco and crew go back in time to 2024. They end up in San Francisco, where they end up in this what is effectively an internment camp for underemployed and unemployed folk who they live in sort of state housing that is substandard. Their food is rationed, their water is rationed, and their employment opportunities are slim. They're very lucky if they can get out to do some day work. And the Bell riots is about, in broad strokes, it's the idea that that a riot within one of these zones shines a light on this inequality, and it leads the state, or it leads the society at the time, to make a choice, right? How are we going to address this issue in a way that's helpful? And the idea from Trek is, if we ignore all of the subsequent eugenics wars and all of that, the idea is that eventually humans make the decision that nobody should have to live like that, and that we can in fact be better. And I think about that, and I think about it in terms of like where we actually are. Like, in a lot of ways, we're actually worse off today than the folks in the Bell riots, the folks in this show, and that's really unfortunate to say, because I'd love to say that a dystopian image of the future from the 1990s, that we should actually be better than that. But no, I think in a lot of ways we actually treat our homeless, we treat our folks with mental illness, folks who are chronically underemployed and unemployed, we treat them a lot worse. At least in the Bell riots, they had housing. And so when I look at the Bell riots as a sort of as a sort of piece that DS9 is trying to tell us, we can actually overcome this. And then I look at where we are today. My biggest fear is that we're not actually, when faced with this challenge, we're not actually turning towards Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. We're turning towards Picard season 2. And that to me is a fear. Like, not to put too fine a point on it, but you folks were saying earlier, your election is a choice between democracy and fascism. That's not wrong. That's what we're looking at, and it absolutely blows my mind that that's where we are. But that seems to be where we are, and my hope, I try to sort of keep optimistic and try to come up around, is to say, look, we, in the midst of all of this, right, in the midst of this surging MAGA and white supremacy and authoritarianism, and like the failing social safety nets, the fact that in the year of our Lord 2024, America still doesn't have single payer health care. Like, in the midst of all that, there are still movements and people who are coming together to try to push back, right? And are doing so in ways that are, great and small. Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If she's not your president in the next decade, I don't know what you guys are doing. Because she is exactly manifesting that kind of ethos that Star Trek has really pushed for, right? That we can come together, we can recognize infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and through that build something greater. But we also see even grassroots efforts, to everything from getting out the vote to coordinating new farmers markets and public community gardens and food banks. Kristen was saying in Kelowna, where she lives, that their food banks have been doing a wonderful amount of work to diversify the kinds of offerings they have for people. Where I live in Victoria, Victoria is the capital of British Columbia, and it's on an island. But because of its climate, it attracts large numbers of folks who have nowhere else to go. Victoria is technically a Mediterranean climate, so it's in the winter, it's between 7 and 10 degrees Celsius on our colder days.
Wow.
Which means that people who are struggling in the interior where it gets very cold often will migrate. They'll move down to Victoria, and we find our social services being very, very heavily taxed. But we even see here that our food banks are doing the same kind of partnerships with local farmers to expand their offerings, to offer more services, and they are partnering with other social services to provide like a holistic space that many different needs can be met, right? With like Victoria has supervised injection sites. It has drug testing sites for street drugs, so that folks can find out if their supply is tainted by fentanyl, which is a good thing because it keeps people from dying. And so we have all of these movements that, in spite of the sort of the macro picture where things are looking kind of grim, there are these movements down at the grassroots, down at the micro level, that are really coming together to sort of rise to the occasion.
So I have a question for you, talking about that movement, because as I think about it, it's like, it seems like we are just such a creature of habit where it's like, well, I'm going to live with the status quo. But it only seems like when you recognize this has gone too far, and everyone has their own line drawn in the sand, but it seems like it requires the negative of where you see something and it's like, gosh, maybe I can make a difference, where we come together and say, yeah, let's try and work on this. But it's like, why do we have to go to the negative of, I'm not going to stand for this anymore? Like, can't we just be proactive instead of reactive?
This is one of the things that one of the big questions that sociologists look at is if we recognize that we have the capacity to solve these problems, why are they still here? And the sort of unsatisfying answer is that these problems aren't natural, right? They don't just emerge from some inherent thing. They're constructed, and they are the end result of processes that enrich and empower others. And if you are trying to balance the scales, but you've got a bunch of people with their thumbs on it,
right?
It's not even so much that like, well, everybody just, we want to go with the status quo. Lots of people don't, but it's hard for folks who are, living paycheck to paycheck. A recent survey in Canada indicated that about 40% of Canadians are within $200 of homelessness. And that, so like, it is hard to fight against the Bezoses and the Musks and the Trumps, and the JD Vances and the Peter Thiels. It's tough to fight against those folks when they're able to sit back in their mansions and dump millions of dollars into elections, and you are working 3 jobs just to get ahead. For some folks, that also lends itself to fear, right? Like, you have very little, and that's within the status quo. Upending the status quo, you might get better, but you stand to lose what little you have. It's tough. These are systemic problems. They're cultural problems that require a cultural will. And right now, I think we're all just fighting so hard to keep our heads above water that it's hard to take that extra step. Which is why I'm always so grateful to see efforts, actions on the parts of people to try to do that regardless.
I was just thinking of these, similarities between 2024 and past tense, the Bell riots. And what struck me was, in the episode, there wasn't really a bad guy. That was just the environment. So there wasn't some kind of evil, villain. we were in a bad time. And then the reverse aspect of looking at what we have now, where you do have the bad guys, but we don't have Gabriel Bell. We don't have that kind of activist person in the news making this big statement piece of a proposal for change.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I'm seeing as the difference. We have the evil without the spark of good here, and it's saddening to think of that.
Yeah, this is kind of the challenge, is that in a lot of cases, we don't have a big bad guy, because the system itself is what is disempowering us. And the risk of sounding like a conspiracy theorist, this is the problem, is we focus our efforts on saying, like, well, it's Jeff Bezos, or it's Elon Musk, like I just did it myself, it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't the problem, he's a symptom. Right? He's the symptom. The problem is deeper than that, right? It is the way that we've constructed a society to validate the unequal distribution of resources, right? Like that, again, that's not human nature. Humans aren't inherently anything. We are like, if it was easy to find out our human nature, we would have done it already. Plato would have been like, I got it. And we all would have been like, oh, cool. We don't have it. So yeah, in the Bell riots, we still see that there's this, it's the system itself, and we've got Bell. But what really made the episode work is that Bell was given space by the writers to be that spark that enacts change. I find in my own experience, single people, this so-called like the great man myth, that one person can change the world, doesn't actually happen. It's collective action. And we need to lean into that. We need to honestly, we need to reach out to each other. We need to build communities again. We need to find ourselves in each other. And right now, that's a really tough sell.
Yeah, Jonathan Snow writes in the chat, the media and powerful special interests do not allow real populists to be heard. Again, that putting the thumb on the scale where not gonna.
I mean, if you want to see structural systemic change in the United States, get rid of Citizens United, have real electoral reform, get money out of politics, and make it. Also, why are your election seasons like a million years long? Like, we did ours in a month. It's not hard. Like, just it limits the amount of spending, and it limits the amount of time that politicians devote to getting elected. Your Congress critters are elected for 2 years, but they spend
a year,
18 months fundraising for the next election.
It's disgusting. Yeah.
We love a general election. We can do them at the drop of the hat over here in the UK.
Yeah, well, I mean, if our provincial election works out, we're going to have like a minority government that has a party of two seats. That'll be the balance of power. I mean, a snap election is going to happen within a year. It'll just fall apart, and we'll have to do it again. And that's likely what's going to happen at the federal level as well. So I mean, the rest of the world got with the metric system, and tons of the world got with this. I mean, first past the post sucks. We need to have proportional representation or ranked ballot or something here in Canada, but like, get money out of politics.
Yes.
Stop letting Elon Musk.
I'm conscious of your time, Edwin, and I'm keen to get
I'm so sorry
you in the time we've got you with us. So let's bring in Amy and Kristen as well, because I'm sure they'll want to join the conversation. Kristen, what do you make of? We've discussed at length all of this before, but anything new that Edwin said there that rings with you?
No, I mean, Edwin and I have known each other for 20 years ish, maybe a little over, and we have talked about this. We went to university together for our undergrads. We always talked about the courses and classes we were taking, and we've been talking about Trek as like a mirror of society and how to emulate that for 2 decades together. So I'm just sitting over here, just nodding away, like, that's my boy. So
that's awesome. You guys have been friends since college. I love that.
It's been a hot minute for us, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Amy, what about yourself? I guess you are our Gabrielle Bell. You're the activist here. You're going to.
Oh God, no, I'm not. Please don't describe me like that. I am not an activist compared to some of these other women who are out there doing the work. Like if you hear Michelle Hurd talk about some of the work that her parents have done, and the Black community is saving our asses.
Yes.
Like I have to just put that out there because. Stacey Abrams, Fair Fight Action, like some of this, I am doing a very tiny amount of just trying to get the word out about getting Trekkies to donate and getting space companies involved and trying to direct some money to a better place. But what you said about Citizens United, that is so essential. I mean, I hate the election cycle. It makes me doom scroll. It gives me stress. Like I would like nothing more than to have a month of election and then that's it.
Yeah.
We need huge election reform, like you said. And my husband's an attorney. He very closely has studied the Supreme Court. And when Trump was elected, he was not necessarily as upset that Trump was president. He was upset about the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not fully understand until we saw what happened with him putting all these justices in power who are, lying through their teeth. And I can't even talk about Comey Barrett and what a traitor she is to her gender and oh God, what's his face? That horrible guy who's the justice now, Brett.
Kavanaugh.
Oh God, what a gross dude. And
He's a gross dude.
Everybody's a gross dude. There was a picture recently, and I think it was Trump's son and JD Vance, and it was like, what is this a picture about? And they were like, date rape. And I was like somebody replied that. I was like, yeah, they're just
not wrong.
Horrible, gross men who you wouldn't want to be alone with in an elevator, and you wouldn't want to leave your drink unattended near,
or run into them in the mountains.
This is why I like.
Yes, I picked the bear.
Yes, I choose the bear.
Yep.
Oh, and I have to say, Edwin, everything you said, especially, one of my very good friends is Vera Hodge from Women at Warp, and she works in the Canadian government system, and she sits in on meetings, and she sends me pictures of my Canadian boyfriend, which is your prime minister. Because I love all the things that he's done, simply because he looks like Prince Eric.
He's a good-looking dude.
Oh, yeah, he does.
He does.
For all his faults.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm more partial to Jagmeet myself. That is one handsome man. And he smells wonderful. He's given me a few bro hugs over the years. And
we love a bro hug.
Smells wonderful.
No, and you also said stuff about the food banks, and Kristen, you had said this, and you triggered my Swiftie brain because I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, and reading about what she has done, donating to food banks in the UK, everywhere she goes, she has donated, and not
a little.
No,
like she dumps
millions,
lots of cash into her things. And so, I'm not a fan of her music whatsoever, but I think she as a person is cool.
And I have to say, dumping $5 million and doing more for a food bank than the government has done for people's food insecurity in a decade. That's insane to me. I good for her, love her. She's fabulous. Was watching my Miami Night 2 live stream last night. Got to see the secret songs. but just what she is saying, she's saying, I think she was on, this was years ago when she was on Letterman or Colbert or something, where he said something like, well, truck drivers don't have health insurance. And she goes, mine do. And I was like, that's bonuses for lugging her giant sets from city to city.
Yep. That's the way to do it.
That's the way to be responsible with your wealth. And I'm like, why can't other people? I mean, I love that she's setting the example. Good for her. Good for ladies. But there's very few female billionaires. And I think they, you see Melissa, is it Melissa Gates using her wealth differently. And now that have you guys watched Loot? I
was just going to bring that up. Beautiful show on Apple with Maya Rudolph.
Rudolph. Yep.
Oh,
And yeah, talking about being responsible with
Mhm.
your, money. And I think I feel that there is a hope with the younger generation, because my generation is still screwing things up, but to get away from money, that let's look at the, being green and saving the environment as a priority more than money, because we just want to help. We want to solve these problems.
Yeah.
And I see that in the younger generations, again, like you were saying with Taylor Swift, like use your money responsibly, because what good is it if the planet's dead? You know,
what are you going to do with it? It did, like Greta Thunberg and all of these, the kids are all right, I have to say. Like there's so many younger kids coming into Congress, and Edwin's point about Congress was spot on. We say this frequently, my husband and I, when we talk, which is they spend so long campaigning on re-election that they're not doing their job in Washington. Even if they want to be doing the policy, you have to, if you ignore re-election, what good is it? You're not going to be, and 2 years is nothing in our political cycle. Like you have to go. I think they should make their terms a little longer, and also just put rules on fundraising and campaigning.
Right. It's so great to hear that there are these good people in the world that we can look at, as well as kind of demonizing and looking at some of the others too. So it's nice to get that inspirational balance, I guess. Edwin, if you're not around to do our wrap up a little bit later, why don't you tell the viewers and the listeners where they can find you online? I do seem to remember you're not a huge social media person, are you? So this
that's easy. Nowhere. My work doesn't lend well to having a public persona. Whenever I try, I end up having to create a new folder for death threats and stuff in my email. So I steer clear. I have an orc ID, which is Facebook for academics, but it's all numbers, so I can't tell you what it is.
Wonderful. In that case, then you're just going to have to come back next season for a catch up. Anyone who wishes to speak to you can join and come in the
ether. Otherwise,
you're cute. You just show up once a season, do your thing.
Mon Capitan.
Brilliant. Well, Edwin, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. That was great. And thanks to Amy and Kristen as well for your comments there. We'll see you guys.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Edwin.
Thank you.
How are you feeling, Miss Nelson? Are you feeling motivated?
Goodness. Yes, what an amazing show. And I'm just so glad that we have very smart friends.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me very reflective when I hear these opinions and the work that some of our nearest and dearest are doing across the world. We're talking in many different time zones today. So it's very inspiring stuff.
Yeah. And I do love that we are now considering our community the entire world, and I love, having the view screen where we Canadians, UK, Scottish in the comments. Hi, Joe. And here. So we're getting a really good perspective on being active and, trying to motivate ourselves to just go one more step more than we can do. We can just do a little bit more.
We can. Well, speaking of one more step, shall we see what we've got coming up next week?
Yes.
Okay, so next week we are looking into art and design. So we are very excited to welcome Kavita from Retrospect Studios. You may know her work online. She does some beautiful fine art pictures and portraits. One of which is hanging in my living room.
Yes, and she was the artist of Star Trek Las Vegas. So if you attended, or followed my posts, her humongous artwork was through the halls, on posters everywhere. It was just gorgeous, set a beautiful tone.
Brilliant. And we are very, very excited that we've managed to bag John Eves, who's going to come on and talk about his long career with Star Trek as a starship designer. So those of you who don't know, John Eves is the man who brought us the Enterprise E, the NX-01, the Protostar. So he's got a long career designing starships. So very, very excited to have those guys join us next week.
Yep. Very good. Well, what are we going to do? Well, where are we? Oh my gosh, I'm gone for a week and this is what happens.
Let's bring everyone back onto the stage who's still with us. Great, thanks.
All right, Amy, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Tell people where they can find you and follow you and join you in your activism.
Yes, I would love it if people would follow us. The Cosmic Girls Foundation is just that. Cosmic Girls, I believe there's _ foundation. And they are on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and all those great places. You can definitely, check out Chase Masterson's pages. She's always posting, and so is John Billingsley about respectively the Pop Culture Hero Coalition and Trek Talks, which is going to be in January. And as far as finding me, you can find me at Amy Imhoff 1701 pretty much everywhere. I am migrating from Twitter to Bluesky. I am still on Twitter, but it is unfortunately my largest platform where I have the most followers, but hopefully we will move over to Bluesky and create a better place now that Twitter is just overrun with bots and crazy people. So join us on Bluesky. I wanted to say, I love both Kavita and John Eaves. They are both friends. I am really happy they're going to be on to talk. And also supporting artists instead of AI art is so important. Yes. And I am so excited that Kavita's work has gotten so recognized.
Nice. Yeah. So. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thanks for joining us this week.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me. It's lovely to hang out with all of you virtually, and I hope we get to hang in person soon.
Yes. Looking forward to our next meeting. All right. And Kristen, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at KStrats. I am not on Bluesky, Twitter, or anything like that. That's not my thing. And I'm on Facebook under the BQN Network, and of course on Reddit at User Garrick's Fan Club. Really interesting discussions this week on Star Trek and all that. So if you are looking for people to interact with and have really cool discussions, pop on Reddit. It can be a good platform. Like all of them, you got to know where to look and where not to.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
And Amy, what about yourself? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me what do I do? I'm co-hosting Union Federation, a podcast. We just finished up our 2-parters of Next Generation, and we're going to be next covering obviously Lower Decks and doing some new reviews there. I am on our Discord server. Again, link is in the show notes, and our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. So you can find me there. Kelvin, where can people find you?
I'm really easy. I'm in the BQN Collective Facebook group, or you can come and find me on most of the socials at Kelvin's Timeline.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you again to all of our guests today for coming, joining us and sharing their special gifts. Thanks, as always, to Kristen and producer David behind the scenes for making the magic happen. We would love to know what you thought of today's show, and we do hope that you'll join us in the BQN Collective Facebook group or on the newly formed Discord server, as Amy mentioned, to continue the discussion over there. You can find the show notes down below, and you'll get your little invite code for Discord there.
Yeah. And we just want to thank our live viewers. Thanks for chatting with us. We absolutely love it. And what else?
If you would like to contribute to the success of the network, you can join us on Patreon at BQN Collective. Sorry, no, it's not. It's patreon.com/BQN Collective. But if being on Patreon isn't your thing, you can still help the show by commenting, sharing our posts, or just chatting about it with your mates so that people know we're out here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So thank you again to all of our guests, our online live viewers, and those rewatching or catching up on our podcast.
That's all we've got time for today. So for now, it's time to end transmission, but we'll see you next week. Have a great day, everyone.